Today I will be making bone marrow crostinis. Bone marrow consists of 70% fat and it's very high in collagen. If you were to order this in a restaurant, it would cost you more than you'd like to spend. For as little as $5, you can end up with a healthier alternative than butter. You just need to get over the concept of eating something out of a bone. Now, this stage can be skipped because it's purely presentational only. But as you can see, there is still some meat and connective tissue left over on the bone. To remove it, grab a knife with a thick back edge and scrape the tissue off. As you're about to see, I found this incredibly hard and pointless, so I definitely half-assed this part. When you're either satisfied or ready to give up, you can put the bones off to the side so you can mix up a bowl of water and a third cup of salt. Once the salt is fully dissolved, you're going to want to fully submerge your bones in the water and let it sit overnight so the salt can pull whatever blood may be left over in the marrow. While we let that sit, I can get started on our crostinis. Now, obviously fresher is better, so make sure to do this while you're cooking the marrow. Cut a baguette into 3/4 inch pieces, about 12 pieces for the recipe and one for me. Our pieces are primed and ready for some olive oil. So grab a baking sheet, heat up the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and lay your slices onto it. You're going to be coating these in oil, so oiling the sheet isn't necessary. And don't be stingy, use a decent amount of oil, otherwise they could burn. Season with both pepper and salt. Garlic powder is also a nice option. Open up your preheated oven and cook these for 10 to 12 minutes. They will come out looking like this, with a nice crunch on the outside with a little bit of chew in the middle, which is exactly what you want for these. I have two toppers in mind for today. For our crostinis, first one will be a fresh Pico de Gallo made from these beautiful tomatoes. Finely chop them, unless you have access to a food processor. In that case, use a rough chop. Next, I'll roughly chop some jalapeños. Remove the seeds unless you want a little extra kick. Always a great idea to wear gloves when cutting peppers. Last thing you want is a fire crotch after a quick bathroom break. Next, I'll cut up some cilantro, and this cilantro will go great in cutting down the fattiness of the bone marrow on the crostini. Whip out that food processor because it's time to slice and dice. I have a little bit more food than food processor, so I'll be doing this in increments. Add your cilantro, your tomatoes, and your jalapeños, then squeeze a half lime into the mixture. Put on the lid, close it up, and pulsate it until you're happy with the size of chunks. Yes, I said chunks. My girlfriend hates that word. Once processed, the longer you let it sit, the better it will be. Now for our second topper. I have some brown mushrooms I'll be lightly sautéing with some shallots. Cut the mushrooms nice and small while keeping in mind they'll shrink by 1/4 of their size. I'll transfer them over to a bowl and start dicing my shallots. Shallots are a part of the onion family and should have as many outer layers of husk removed until the bright purple flesh is exposed. The core of the shallot is located on the back end and it should be removed because of its bitter taste. I'll quickly run my knife through them to chop them down just a little bit more. Oh look, another bowl! Yep, you guessed it, I'm going to put it off to the side to sauté for later. And finally some freshly chopped parsley to top off our mixture. You won't be sautéing this, it'll only be added on at the final step. Grab a pan and heat it to medium-low heat. At the time I was filming, I was cooking my marrow at the same time, so I used my rendered marrow fat as an oil. I highly recommend sautéing with it. You're looking to lightly sauté your shallots and mushrooms so you're left with a little bit of bite at the end, so I recommend about 2 to 3 minutes. After about 3 minutes, they're ready and can be taken off the heat. 24 hours have gone by and immediately you can notice how much blood has been extracted by the salt water. At one point this bone was completely covered in red and now it's completely white. Makes me wonder how I ever failed chemistry. If you left your oven on, don't change it. Leave it at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'll be putting these on a baking sheet as the bone marrow will make a mess as it renders down in the oven. In terms of seasoning, it doesn't need much, I'll just season it with some black pepper. And now I'll let it cook for 20 minutes.
Here's to the nervousness, hopefully going away. These outros, they're killer for me. They're so hard to do all the time. But we're here for the food. Both are done. Both are gonna be wonderful. Cheap, very, very cheap. It's super inexpensive. If you wanna do this with an appetizer at a party, definitely do it, because you're gonna be saving a lot of moolah. Anyways, bon appetit. The shallot goes so well with the mushrooms, and the parsley, it's a nice touch to complement the bone marrow. Just really, really good. And now, we're gonna do the salsa one. Just as good. Obviously, they're both different in their own ways, but they're both great picks. Well, that's it for this one. Please like this video if you haven't already. Comment down below if you have any future suggestions. And don't you forget to subscribe. Anyways, I'll see you on the next one.